Because I think what we're really getting at is prioritizing the person.
Prioritizing the person and the personal relationship over the relationship I think it's about realizing that whatever the business relationship is supposed to produce something. But because that's been well-defined, whatever that business relationship is supposed to produce, you kind of have to come back to the personal relationship and decide what it is supposed to produce.
Yikes. Well,
Yeah.
and that'll be telling because in my personal relationship, you are my end.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm saying? You're not a means to an end. You are my end. Time with you is the end.
Yes.
Enjoying you is the end. Netflix binging is the end. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And in a management relationship, you're right. It's like we're doing something so that we can accomplish something. But how?
Which is much easier to do than to be. So that's why it's hard.
Eek.
Yeah, it's when
Talk about that.
Well, when you give somebody an explicit task, that's easier than them figuring out what it means to be in a situation. You give somebody something to do in a situation, they'll just do it. But if they just have to be, we all struggle with that, right?
Yeah, I think that was one of my fears in managing you was always, I hope that after all of this, we don't know how to be.
Exactly.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I hope that after all of this work or, all, you know, like I know how to help you get dressed for something. I know how to walk on a red carpet with you. I know how to do all these things. But what if when all this is gone,
we can't talk to
one another?
And I think there was one very popular, very famous recording artist, who their spouse was their manager as well. And I remember seeing, and this was probably a trigger for me, when I saw that they got divorced.
Yeah.
And I realized, and the story was, and I don't, it was the story that was presented to us, but it was, we're still great friends, we're still going to work together, we're just not going to be married. And I thought, because that's actually easier. I can see how you can get to the point where it's easier. Of course, you chose this person, so you can be great friends.
Right.
But once you realize you can work together, and there is a thing, at least from the artist's perspective, where you found your person, right? But then now I know, because you're my person, I know I can trust you with everything. And so since artistry, recording artistry specifically, it comes from your soul, from such a vulnerable place, it feels good to have your person be the one that's connected to you and working with you in it.
Right.
But it is very easy to lose sight of being and decide, well, I like being able to trust you over here. Because at some point, I think you do get to a crossroads where it's tough and you're like, we either got to do marriage or we got to do this job.
Right.
And I think some people decide to do the job. And I thought, I never want us to get to that place and choose the job.
Yeah.
So let's not.
Yeah. I think, and that, because I remember, I feel like there was a day that you said to me something about not wanting to be a wind-up doll. You were talking.
What? I don't even remember this.
You were talking about your career and how everybody had, as you were preparing to sing stuff or go to stuff or write songs or whatever, that you didn't want to just be propped up and pushed into a room, is what you said. I don't want to just be propped up and pushed into a room. Like, I know that everybody that's attached to me has my best interest at heart, but I don't want to just be shoved out there. And like, I'm not a thing. Essentially, you were saying I'm not a thing to be worked on or a project to be worked on. And you were saying it to me from the standpoint of, and you didn't say this, but this is what I internalized.
I can hear,
hey, I'm your wife. Like, don't in all of this, don't supplant our relationship and what we have for my personal success, especially because you think that that's what I want most from you.
Right.
And that was hard for me. You know, I've talked a lot on this podcast and elsewhere about, you know, just how significant you and the concept of you has been in my life as potentially idolatrous and just like, man, Janice is just, but with that, I've always wanted you to win.